We'll start with, okay. So I've been a passive video game collector for all my life. In 1999, I got the Nintendo 64 Star Wars Episode 1 Racer bundle for Christmas. And something clicked in my head and it said, Andrew, open this up with an X-Acto knife. And I did just that. When I opened the box, I was very meticulous as to keep the foam intact and to take everything out of the packaging very, very meticulously, so nothing got ruined or broken. I still have all of the twisties, all of the paperwork, all of the plastic baggies, everything for that. And from there on out, I had anytime I received a video game, either as a gift or whether I purchased one, I did the exact same thing. I opened it very, very meticulously. Come 2 years ago, I watched a video on TED. I hope you're all familiar with the TED conference. And the video is titled, Do What You Love, No Excuses. It's by Gary Vaynerchuk, and he is a tremendous motivational speaker and very successful. So something kind of clicked, and I said, well, I've been a video game collector for a long time here. How can I get paid for doing this? Well, it turns out that there are professionals who collect things, and they're archivists and librarians and museologists. So at the time I was working, prior to that though, I was working on digitization of video games. I had taken my collection and scanned in any flat surface that I could possibly find, including boxes, registration cards, manuals, disc artwork, cartridge artwork, the whole 9 yards. When I was digitizing things, every now and then we get artifacts when we would scan things called the Moore effect, and it would be not very pleasant to look at. So I said, well, something's got to be done about this. What can I do to make sure that these things are preserved in perpetuity? So I started doing research and wound up reading a very, very long Library of Congress grant that Cornell University had been commissioned to do. I studied digitization methods and came up with my own set of guidelines over about a 4-month period of time. I went to the Library of Congress and went to the Technology and Business Reference Desk and spoke with a librarian named Margaret Clifton. And I said, hey, Peg, I'm doing this really cool video game digitization thing. What do you think? Is the Library of Congress doing anything like that right now? And as it turns out, they kind of were and kind of weren't. But she didn't really know. So she said, oh, come back in 2 days, and I'll have some more information for you. I'll talk to some people. So I came back in 2 days, and as it turns out, everything, well, not everything, a lot of things at the Library of Congress are done behind closed doors, which is really unfortunate. But she turned me on to the Strong National Museum of Play, which is in Rochester, New York. Luckily, my mom lives in upstate New York, so it was only a hop, skip, and a jump to the Strong. I rented a truck, went to the Strong National Museum of Play, and showed them my digitization project that I was doing at the time. They said, wow, this is really kind of cool. And at the time, they were developing their 5,000 square foot video game exhibit, which I got a sneak preview of. But they also took me into their archive downstairs, which was part of a $43 million renovation project that they did. Hi, Tom. As I was going through the archive, I was thinking to myself, wow, they have so many great artifacts in here. Everything from really, really rare stuff to expensive stuff to notepads and just everything and anything that the video games that came out of the video games industry. Really old stuff, new stuff, the whole thing. But as I was going through, I was looking at all the stuff on the shelves, and there was no uniformity or continuity as to how it was laid out or the way it was structured or anything like that. And I was thinking to myself, wow, the bookshelves in my apartment look better than this. I have to do something about this. So I got back to Seattle, and I said, well, you know what? I'm putting my foot in the ground. Guess what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? I'm going to do a video game museum, library, and archive. So I started studying exactly what it took to do a video game museum, library, and archive, and as it turns out, at the core of that is a collections management system. So I started researching collections management. Wow, what a thing. So from my research, I basically came to find out that there were 4 different pieces of software I need to achieve everything that I wanted to do across all levels of internal and external information dissemination and rights and property management, all that stuff, the whole 9 yards. So there are 4 separate pieces of software. I said, wow, talk about it's just can't think of the word. Anyway, too much redundancy, not good. Spinning your wheels. Anyway, so I approached a gentleman at the University of Washington named Dr. Joe Tennis. I said, Joe, I'm doing this video game museum, library, and archive. I need to talk to you. I need to learn how to structure this data effectively. So he invited me to sit in on his course, and I did, and I learned his lingo. And long story short from that, this past fall I conducted a Museum, Library, and Information Sciences graduate studies seminar at UW on video game metadata classification and analysis, wherein we came up with 15 metadata fields that both group video games together, but also separate them. So it's a total of 15 fields. From there, there was a student in the course who was doing a capstone project, which is your senior project, and he said, wow, this is really kind of cool stuff. Can we build the little database engine behind this? And I said, absolutely, let's talk. So as it turns out, the way that the system that I devised over the past year and a half, there is a system that exists that does it. It's called MongoDB, which stands for Humongous Database. And it's just a flat database structure, so it's not relational. It's flat. And unfortunately, none of them were familiar with that, so the database model that we developed was in MySQL, but it's still a cool framework and a great working concept. From there, I got involved in the Knowledge Organization Research Group at the University of Washington, and we studied video game genres and analyzed them ad nauseum. Because if you go to any website out there, I don't care if it's Wikipedia, GameFAQs, IGN, Giant Bomb, all of these websites classify their video games in terms of genres in a very, very different way. And actually, and there's no continuity or uniformity between any of them. And there's a lot of not necessarily misinformation, but incorrect information. So we set out to correct that with the genre study, and we'll be publishing that paper in the next several months, definitely before the year end. Seattle Center found out about what I was doing with my video game museum, library, and preservation archive, and they said, hey, wouldn't it be cool for the month of June, which is Science and Technology Month for the 50th anniversary of the World's Fair, if you came in and did a video game retrospective exhibit. So we put on a video game retrospective exhibit in 3 weeks, talked about super crunch mode. Crunch mode. See this gray hair? This is all from the past 3 months. So we put that on, and we got about 6,000 people through the door, about 6,200 people through the door in 1 month's time. And that was with zero advertising, and it was just completely walk-ins. Just whoever was in the food court, we were tucked in the way back, in the food court. We got such a positive response from it that Seattle Center gave us a 3-month extension and is putting us in a much more prominent location, and we're probably going to triple our amount of foot traffic, about 18,000 people in a month. And we'll be there till October 21st with potentially the opportunity for staying there longer. In 5 years' time, I hope to have the museum established well enough that I can do oral history projects, an oral history for every single individual who's ever been involved in every single video game ever, whether it be PC, console, doesn't matter, or any other part of the industry, development or not. Speaking of which, MOHI, Museum of History and Industry right here in Seattle, got wind of what I was doing as well, and we'll be collaborating on an oral history project with MOHI for an exhibit that will be in the Smithsonian in 2015, and it's essentially a Titans of Industry exhibit, and the Pacific Northwest is their chosen Titan of Industry for the video games industry, which is really cool. So if you have any recommendations as to who I should get in contact with, who might like to be interviewed for that, please send them my way, or let me know and I'll write it down and I'll get in contact with them. We have an opportunity as the video games industry to really create the most comprehensive snapshot of any form of entertainment out there. Music, movies, television, print, all of these industries are very old in comparison to the video games industry, and a lot of their stuff has gone by the wayside. That's also true for the video games industry, but there's a significant amount of information that is still around, and much more significant, especially the earlier stuff, than in comparison to those other forms of those other industries. Other establishments. I have been in contact with Smithsonian, and they're essentially a brick wall unless you have a lot of money and a lot of institutional capacity, which I do not, unfortunately, but I'm slowly building towards that. And there are a number of other institutions around the United States and around the world who also do video games as an aside. It is not their primary focus. So their resources cannot be thoroughly allocated to preserving this medium, which is really unfortunate, because there has to be an institution that is geared towards explicitly preserving this medium. There are other fledgling institutions out there, small ones, who have done Kickstarter campaigns who have been self-funded, and I've done my research on these guys and talked to them as best I could. Sometimes they don't get back to me, which is really unfortunate because I'd like to create a worldwide consortium where we all talk to each other and pool our resources and put all this information online in one coherent system, which we're actually developing. And we should have an alpha of that come November for the Museum Computer Network Conference, which I've been asked to speak at. And actually my submission, my lecture submission was the highest rated out of all of the submissions this year. So I get to stand in front of Smithsonian and Guggenheim and Museum of History and MoMA and the Met and say, hey, this is how we should structure our stuff. What do you think? I want to preserve all of your legacies. I want to preserve the legacies of people who aren't in here. I want to preserve the legacies of people who have passed as best I can. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I get support from everybody here and everybody in the industry as best I can. I'd like to, in 6 years' time, have probably 7 now, have a 6-story building in the Seattle Center. 3 stories of that will be exhibit space. 1 story of that will be storage and library. One level will be specifically private archive, and 1 level for administration, which will also be shared with more private collections of the archive as well. We are looking for people to be on our advisory board. We need help with this, and we're like a really, really fine, straight razor. We just need to be honed, and so we're looking for individuals to really assist us with that. We have a great team. We're 5 strong right now, and we have 1 advisor, and I have bided my time and specifically chosen these people for a very specific reason because they all fill the needs for what their domain in this particular venture is. So, again, I need your help. Please, if you know anybody who's interested in this or if you're interested in this yourself, please get in contact with me. I have a lot of great ideas, and I really want to really show the rest of the museum, library, and archival world exactly how to preserve things effectively and well. And also create a great learning environment and a really entertaining experience that people can come to in a couple years' time. So thank you very much. Questions?
What is it that you're looking for in an advisor?
An advisor. Well, people have certain passions of their own, and they have strengths. And whatever those strengths are that can fit into the big picture of this organization, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people to talk about, to influence our judgments and to talk with, certain things about, whatever your personal thing is in life, perhaps you could advise us on that. Or somebody who might be able to say, oh, this person is awesome. You should talk to them about so-and-so. Or, just everything and anything. We're looking for people who are going to be committed to this project about, potentially we'd like to do about 1 day a month where we have a sit-down meeting or a Skype and we actually, talk and go through questions and answers and talk about this stuff. So that's what we're looking for in an advisor. Somebody to bounce ideas off of and somebody to give us great ideas about things. Thank you. Any other questions?
This is kind of loaded, but
please.
With your opportunity to go and speak to these people, you really think the best position is to tell them what they're doing wrong?
No, not at all. It is basically it's an illustration of as to how I came to the conclusion as to how to structure our information systems, and to ask them, is there a better way to do this, or do you have any critiques or any ideas as to how we could make this better? That's the premise of it. It's not how, no, not at all.
But your last statement just was that we need to tell them how it should be done.
Sure, sorry.
That's all right. Just, obviously, do you have a presence yet?
Our physical presence is in the Seattle Center right now. Yes, that is it. We exist in my apartment and in storage right now. I've been a video game collector. I have thousands upon thousands of artifacts. And Kickstarter's the hot thing. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter very shortly for a pretty large amount of capital because it's necessary.
And Kickstarter doesn't allow nonprofits. How are you going to get around
They do, I believe.
They don't.
I'm pretty sure they.
Checked 3 days ago.
The MAID, the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment in Sunnyvale, did a Kickstarter there. Also,
They just let, because all of their rules say we don't do nonprofits.
very interesting. The last I looked,
Which I thought was
they
weird.
did.
You'd think they would want to
I
do
could be
nonprofits.
wrong.
Well, I could be wrong too,
Are you
because
think-
I know that some people have done, and they also say they don't do businesses, they don't do hardware. And of course, they're doing hardware, so I
Right.
don't know, maybe they just have lax rules.
Well, there's other crowdfunding sources too.
Sure, it's just Kickstarter is the most
Are you-
notable
Are
one.
you picking a number you can actually hit? I talk to a lot of people who just don't look at what their potential for raising capital is.
Absolutely. Well, the number we're looking for is $1.5 million, and that will go. I mean, that's a huge number, but it's necessary in order to build.
Sure, okay.
Sure.
For the viability of the project, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. For the reality of getting $1.5 million, do you have the mechanisms? Do you have?
Do I have the logistics put in place to handle that?
2.5 million people you can reach tomorrow to get to that?
I personally don't. Kotaku will be running a story on us when we open our exhibit on a week after the 10th, so the 17th or so.
I would recommend strongly look at stretch goals for that and make a number you can actually keep.
Okay.
In order to get to something that's useful. Because I've
Keep in
seen
mind with
so many
Kickstarter,
people that try 250,000 and don't even get to 25K.
If you
Right.
don't get
With
the number,
fan base.
if you don't hit your number, you don't get anything.
Right, I understand that.
So the stretch
Absolutely.
goals and you really do have to, and not to consult.
No, please, this is great.
Well,
It's fantastic.
Kickstarters obviously have a lot. There's the Kickstarter Bible and all that. So it's hard. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of
Definitely.
and literally you have to have PR every day. I mean, a Kotaku story just shows one group, but you're going to have spokespeople and a lot of other people that have street cred that can actually endorse what you're doing. And get out there.
Right.
Yeah, I think getting enough money to be able to put on a presentation and have a booth at all the PAXs and all the game conferences.
Yeah.
And use that money to generate money at those events. I mean, I
Crawl
think
before you
if you
walk
go for
before you
seed,
run.
you're probably better off.
Sure.
Because you need to build that base. No, I think it's a great ambition. We've talked before. I think that
Yeah.
it's a felt need in the industry. The challenge is to break it down into something that's tractable over the vision of the
Definitely.
Andrew, were you at GDC?
I was not at GDC, unfortunately.
So I'm trying to, there's a group down, I think they're in San Jose, the museum's, they've got a bunch of hardware, and they got, who the heck was it, Naughty Dog? One of the big developers, actually sponsored a significant amount of space on the floor,
Hmm.
at E3, I think it was E3, wasn't it, GDC?
Yeah.
I'm confused, that goes so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was
Anyway.
E3, but they had, they had historic, they had at least all the console systems probably.
Oh, is that was this year? This past year? Yeah, that was the Video Game History Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
there's
it-
Joe
are
Santulli
you
and
working with-
John.
Are they amenable to working with you on this?
I'm open. I've tried to get in contact with them before, and I haven't received anything back. Which it's.
Yes.
I'd like to. I mean, it'd be great because the more institutions we have working on this, whether fledgling or established, the more we can utilize our collective resources appropriately to getting this done. And it's folly to think that any one institution can handle this all by themselves. There's no way I can do this by myself. No, and that's why I think region championing. We'll be the Pacific Northwest. They can be the Southwest. We have strong in the Northeast. Library of Congress can do Southeast or whoever. Maybe there's another startup. I don't know.
Somebody in Texas is doing it.
University of Texas at Austin is involved. They do. They have Richard Garriott.
I mean, I think that's the thing is that your consortium piece seems like the better umbrella piece to.
Yeah.
And then you're like what you do that adds value to that consortium architecture makes
Well,
sense.
even John's work with,
Yeah.
Right, John Romero, and I've tried to get in contact with John, and he has several times, and just hasn't responded.
I'll give you that intro.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I have his last interview, it's sitting in the DVD drive in my.
Oh, cool.
desktop. Then he doesn't even have that one, but I'm not giving it to him until he gives me the one of Will Wright.
There you go.
But he's done, actually, if you've ever seen his series of, I mean, keep in mind, this is just, his goal is to interview, do one-on-one interviews
way over
with
time.
seminal designers
Yeah.
in the industry.
Yes, we have.
He's got some amazing stuff, though. Is it next?
Yeah, it's next.
Yeah, thank you.